Welcome to the Motivation Without the Hype podcast with your host, Gez Perez. He's an author, high-performance coach, and motivational speaker. This show brings you inspiring messages and interviews to unleash your greatness in life and in business. So let's get started.
Hi everyone, welcome to Motivation Without the Hype podcast show. My name is Gez Perez, a former procrastinator into an action taker. We bring you inspirational messages and interviews, including motivational insights, tips, principles, and proven strategies that you can take action without the hype and unleashing your greatness in life and in business. Now, we appreciate you plugging in every single time and spending time with us. And we have a very special guest, and I'm super grateful to have her on our show all the way from the UK. Her name is Janice. Now, Janice is a phenomenal human being. She's amazing what she does. She's a nutritional and energy coach on a mission to help you be healthy and busy because they're not mutually exclusive. With a blend of behavioral change and nutrition coaching, you can get to your best health without restrictive diets. Take notes. Without restrictive diets or extreme workouts. Now, guys, we're super happy to have Janice with us. And Janice, thank you so much for joining in today's podcast show.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jez. I think this is definitely, especially, with COVID and everything, this is a very, very important message, very close to my heart. Particularly this year that, let's not forget about being healthy while being very busy.
Absolutely, both mentally and physically and just practically about everything. And we'll probably touch down on that because I'm really, really excited to hear you. So please, I'm a huge advocate for health and wellness. And so please tell us what you do and more about yourself.
Yeah, so I guess let me start with the about me part of this because it all makes sense. So actually, I do have a 9-to-5 corporate job still. And so this will link in nicely to how I explain how can I be so busy but still be at my current best health. So I started looking at health and nutrition really about 6 years ago when I first entered the corporate world after university. And I'm sure people listening, who've been to uni, college in America, that's not a healthy lifestyle for most people, unless you're a top athlete, right? And so I was really shocked when I started working and was just so tired. It was extreme fatigue. That was unexplainable because, like I said, I had a corporate job. I'm not a bricklayer. I'm not in construction. So nothing I did was that physical. And yet I was exhausted. I was falling asleep on the sofa every single night after dinner at about 8:30. And I would, scare myself awake, if something loud on the TV was playing. And it was just terrible. And it got me to a really low point because I was feeling like, being 24 at the time, I was like, what the hell is happening? This is not right because I don't feel like 24. I feel like 84. And there are probably 84-year-olds out there healthier than me at that time. So when I saw my brother and, my now sister-in-law, they were preparing for their wedding and they had a personal trainer. They were really looking at what they're eating because, as you know, everybody wants to lose weight before a wedding. And I saw that they looked amazing. And I thought, okay, hold on. This is incorrect because you are all older than me and you are busier than me, but you look better than me. So then I took myself to the gym. I actually had a trainer for just a few months to get myself orientated with, the equipment and everything. And then that's when I really started looking into nutrition. And it basically changed my life because suddenly all of the back pain from, carrying your laptop bag, the diagonal strap ones, from sitting at a desk all day, all of the neck, shoulder, back pain was gone. And then suddenly my flexibility was better. But more than the physical side of things, I really started paying attention to my nutrition because, as people may have heard, 80% of the work is in the kitchen. So I started from being skinny fat. For people listening who are familiar with these numbers, I was 28% body fat. Now, so to give you some perspective to people who haven't met me in person, I'm 5'4" and about, at the time, 48 kilograms. Right? So I've never been overweight in my entire life. And to find out that I was basically more than a quarter body fat, I was shook. I was like, what the hell? And I knew that it wasn't just about how I looked, but things like visceral fat and what happens to your body, let's say, in 20 years, right? This is something that I needed to change. And within 3 months of me picking up on nutrition and really having a regular workout routine, I dropped to 20% within 3 months. Now, it doesn't stop there, right? The journey was not a straight line. So what happened after was actually, I guess, the darker side of what happened, which is within another half a year, I dropped myself to 14% body fat. So I halved my body fat within a year. But it was orthorexic. It was not healthy mentally because I was eating a very restricted list of foods. So I would have a cheat day every Sunday, but Monday to Saturday, I wouldn't change really my meals away from either having a piece of steak or some chicken or some salmon with sweet potatoes and spinach. That was all I ate for most of the year, apart from that one cheat day where I would eat whatever. And what's worse was that although physically I looked really good, like good enough to consider maybe competing, you know, people were offering me sponsorships on Instagram, I was so unhappy because I was still looking at Instagram and thinking like, wait, but my bum doesn't look like that. I'm not tall enough, you know, which obviously is not something I can change. I'm still not, you know, my face is still round, or just everything was still wrong. And I think it was the pivotal moment was one time when I was scrolling in Instagram and I was crying, like literally crying, because I felt like I've put in so much work and I will never get there, that I decided, well, that and also having guys send explicit messages to me on Instagram, those two things combined had me delete the app off my phone completely. And I had to really take a step back and look at what the hell am I doing? Like, what am I doing this for? Because I was never going to become an athlete or to compete in bikini body fitness. That was never my aim. I wanted to feel better, look better, be more confident. So that's when I decided to finally get certified as a nutrition coach, because, you know, I do believe that free knowledge is everywhere, right? But to learn from a scientific point of view, combined with my own experiences, I felt that that would put me back on the right path, and it did. And then I decided, okay, while I'm still having a corporate job, I'm looking at people around me. These are people that everybody look up to. If you just look at some of the big tech, you know, bosses, I'm not going to name names here in case you get in trouble, but just look at them. Yes, a couple of them went to space, like recently, but do they look healthy? Are they a picture of health? I would not say so, right? Most of them have that middle-aged beer gut and all of these things. And once again, I want to remind people, it is not just about how attractive you are, because we all know that is subjective, but quite often physical, I guess, symptoms or, you know, shapes, whatever you want to call it, could actually be indicative of something happening on the inside, right? If someone is healthy, we don't need a lot of excess body fat, right? So anything that's excess could be a sign that you should do something about it. So yeah, so that's where I am today. I'm still working in the corporate world, helping mainly corporate or just very busy people figure out how is it possible to be busy and healthy at the same time. Because I got sick of hearing, you know, at the early stages of my business being a coach, I keep hearing people say, oh, but I'm too busy now. And I'm like, when do you think you'll be less busy? Right? And the answer is never, right? People say it all the time, although I disagree with the statement. I'll sleep when I die, or I rest when I die. And unfortunately, this is the mentality a lot of people have, that let's just be super productive. Let's do a million things and then not take care of my health. So,
Can I just ask, like, you mentioned about people making excuses, saying I'm too busy. Mm-hmm. Is it because of the priorities that people place that it may not be a priority for them of focusing on their health? Or are there other elements in terms of their mindset? You mentioned about the internal and how that is important. Does that also play an effect? Like, there's a lot of people and listeners who may be in that same situation where you've just described, mm-hmm. and they're kind of thinking, well, how do I get over that hump? what would you say to them that say, hey, there is another way?
Yeah, so apart from the mindset around, limiting beliefs, right? Of I need to, and I don't want to kind of talk down on people who really need to work to put food on the table, absolutely respect that. But I think sometimes we are, as a society, we are brought up, we are taught almost to live a very fast life that it's never enough. You need to always do more. And then health becomes a bit of an afterthought, because quite often, especially people of our age, until you really get to your 60s, 70s, you might not even know that something's gone wrong, right? In our 20s and 30s, we're invincible, right? Like, we might feel a bit of back pain and then we pop a pill and then we're fine. So I think one of the most important things for people to turn this around is when you draw your, vision board, when you think about your life plans, whatever, just make sure health is a factor in that, because you need to remember, if you're dead, you're not doing anything, right? And also, one of the things that in my field I see quite often happen with women, without being discriminatory, it is just factual that I see it more with women, that they prioritize everybody else first, right? And, you're a new father, so it is that feeling of, well, now my child, or like my family, or my partner, or, elderly relatives, now they are the priority. But I want to remind people, even on an airplane, when the oxygen mask drops, you need to put it on yourself first, right? Especially if you are the single point of care for somebody. Like, what's going to happen if you're not there anymore? So it's almost like two sides of the same coin, and people just need to flip that coin around.
You find that's a challenge for people to let go of that type of mindset and really focus and have that self-care? Because a lot of people let go, right? It's, oh yeah, whatever. But there's a lot of effect to that. Like, it's the long term, isn't it? It's not just the short term effect where, oh yeah, I'll go on a journey, like for about 12 weeks, but it's not that consistency where it becomes a lifestyle. So why doesn't diet work? I mean, like, people do diets, people, reframe different type of things. It's too hard for them. They fail at this. They do a lot of resets. Why don't diets work?
So, simply put, because they are not personalized for you, right? And if diets worked, whatever that diet is, it wouldn't be a diet anymore. It would be just how we normally eat, right? Like, it's a bit of an oxymoron. And also, the one way I describe this to people is, imagine, so Gez, I've only seen you online. I actually don't know how tall you are, what clothes you like. You're wearing pretty much all black today. And imagine if this is the only time we will meet. And maybe this is a one-way conversation, actually. You're just listening to me. And I get to decide what you wear for the next year, right? And you don't give me any feedback. I don't know if you like it or not. I don't know what you do. I don't know if you go hiking or go swimming a lot. It's just not going to work, right? And it's like, and another clothing related analogy for people is, those times when you go online and you see this amazing dress or this amazing suit on the model, right? And it does tell you, right, the model's height and what size they're wearing, and you're like, it looks amazing. And then you order it, you bring it home, and then it looks crap, right? That's exactly what's happening with diets, because it wasn't created with you, for you. So yeah, that's my kind of short answer why they just don't work.
So how do you, we and that's a fantastic insight. Thank you so much for that, because it really does make a massive difference. But people who are not disciplined, people who don't have any self-control, what would be an easy solution for them to avoid some temptations around food? Because we all have that, we all have that type of sweet tooth, or that, we sometimes it happens. But how do you stay disciplined and stay self-controlled to avoid such temptations?
I think actually this might sound very counterintuitive, but it's actually about getting out of that mindset. Don't just stop thinking about these as temptations, as, oh, this is a naughty food. Like, just de-taboo it. That's not a word, but it is now. So just destigmatize is what I mean. Because food, food is a dead object, right? Unless you're eating some alive things, which is a bit creepy. But food in itself is not good or bad, unless it is an actual poison. And I find that people struggle a lot more when they start using these labels around, okay, I have a weakness for this, and therefore I don't have self-discipline, etc., etc. But for most of the people listening to your podcast, or even yourself, you were talking about how your schedules really change, and then in lockdown everything's chaotic, right? But when your baby cries, do you get up or do you not? You do, right? And even if you had a late night and, your family needs an errand in the morning, do you get up to do it? Yes. So there's your self-discipline. We all have it. It's just a matter of how important that thing is, right? So with this food temptation thing, I would actually say, again, this doesn't happen overnight, but if you are feeding your body everything it needs, it should want less. So there's a big difference between what your body needs and what your body wants, right? And it's completely okay if your body wants a donut, right? But what I would say is, instead of just immediately going to grab a box from Krispy Kreme's, have a think about why, right? Are you stressed? Are you tired? Is it a childhood memory thing? So it is always possible to link back to why you have these associations with food. Now, when on holiday, to be honest, I think it's a free-for-all. Like, it's a holiday. Enjoy yourself, right? And I find that a lot of people, once they've done that ridiculous holiday binge for the first day of the holiday, they start feeling like, okay, I've had my fun. Like, I'm going to be sensible now. And actually, it's fine. So we self-regulate, right? And I think, we've been told that we need apps, we need tech, wearable tech, we need all of these things to tell us. But our brains are just stupidly powerful. So, yeah. So actually, the counterintuitive answer to that is just forget the word temptation.
I love that. I love that how you reframed it and turn it into a positive rather than a negative. Because a lot of people tend to say that is like, yeah, junk food's bad food. But again, it's a lifestyle and it's a choice decision and it's discipline. I love how you mentioned about regardless of, for example, like my baby, it's like, yeah, you got to wake up. It's inevitable. You just got to do it. Right. And yes, everyone has that inner self-discipline. So what would be your 3 practical tips of ways to have a healthier lifestyle that is easy doable then rather than people saying it's too hard for them?
So one is you need to remember that attention goes where energy flows, right? So this works both ways. Sometimes what I do is if I know that, for example, I'm coming home after work and I'm going to be already tired from the day, but I know I want to fit in some kind of movement, I just put my leggings and, sports bra, whatever, in the bathroom where I know, I come in, I go wash my hands, right? It's there. So make it easy for yourself, but also make other things difficult for yourself. So especially with working from home, a lot of people may not have the luxury of having a home office, right? They could be working in the kitchen. First of all, try not to, because it makes things difficult. But also, if you do have to, right, if that's your only space, then, maybe talk to your housemates, family, whoever who might be with you. Just get some discipline around, okay, let's only congregate at meal times. Let's not keep opening the fridge. Let's not keep all the snacks on the counter. So out of sight, out of mind, but also the opposite. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is do it slowly, like start small. So a lot of people make the mistake of, going out, I don't know, Gymshark or whatever, buying a whole kit, spending loads of money, setting up a home gym, buying a Peloton bike, buying a rowing machine, whatever, right? Because they think, well, if I'm paying for it, I'm going to do it. Well, it doesn't really happen like that, I think, for a lot of people. So you really need to just pick one thing. So, for example, starting to make sure you're drinking enough water every day. And then slowly build that up. A good analogy for that is when we grow up as kids learning how to speak. We don't study the dictionary straight away, right? We start with mama, papa, and then we build our vocabulary. Anyone learning a language now, look at Duolingo, look at all of these apps. What are they doing? Building small blocks, right? Because our brains simply cannot do big changes, right? That's just a fact. And my third tip would be to find one non-negotiable thing around self-care for yourself. For me, it's having a hot bath every night, right? In the summer, maybe it's a bit less hot, but I still have a bath in the evening because that is when I can truly relax, both physically and mentally, right? There's something about being in magnesium salts, having some essential oil or maybe a candle going and in warm water, and you're kind of like semi-floating, and that helps me. For some people, it could be a morning run, it could be an evening walk, whatever. So just find one thing that come rain or shine, you will always do every day. And actually, just to add to the start small thing, I recently quite successfully helped a few people with this. They were struggling with finding time for workouts because I guess, gyms are slowly opening up here in the UK, but a lot of people might not be comfortable yet, or it's been a whole year and people aren't quite ready to get back to the gym. What I always say is, right, if you want to start a new habit, maybe do something like 20 squats a day, right? Do it whenever feels natural to you. Then if you can do that for a month, you would have find that time. Because we need to remember that we all only have 24 hours a day. If something didn't have a time slot originally, it ain't gonna happen, right? So you need to naturally find out, okay, when does your body feel like, okay, let me take a break from sitting, I want to move. So you could be squatting when you're cooking, when you're brushing your teeth, whatever, right? Just find a time before you make any big investments.
Love it. Now, can I just ask, why is it important to have self-care? Now, you mentioned, baths, workouts. Why is it important? I mean, like, everyone's all wired differently, so to them could be differently, but sometimes they put themselves aside and say, you know what, I need to get it over and done with. I just don't have time, but we need to make time. Why is it important to have self-care?
Let me ask you something in return. Why is it important to do an MOT on your car every year? Right? Or why is it important to regularly pump your bicycle wheels? Or polish, your car, or sharpen your knives? Simple wear and tear, right? Physically, we only have the one body, and apart from when we actually, break a bone or have a cut, we don't really realize that there is wear and tear on our bodies, right? Every single movement you do, even sitting down, you're using so much of your core to hold yourself up, right? Walking, your joints are really hard working. And a lot of people, I was guilty of that once of, I used to lift very heavy weights and then forget to stretch. And yeah, it was problematic because I did misalign my kneecap one year. But I mean, I've learned from it. I do now stretch every single day. And yeah, it's a simple answer, wear and tear. And this is not just about physical, right? Again, it's also mental. So since COVID started, we've been blasted, like whatever channel you switch on, whatever WhatsApp group chat you're in, whatever Facebook you're scrolling, whatever Instagram profile, whatever Twitter you're looking at, it's like horror, 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 fear, fear, death, like every single day. And also the kind of mainstream news, this is how they make money, right? Not that they are not reporting the truth, but if they report something that's boring, no one's going to watch it. So we are putting ourselves, we are collecting so much stress, like micro stresses, every single day, right? It could be going onto public transport and one person isn't wearing a mask and you're freaking out inside. That's a stress. Maybe that person's freaking out too because they can sense that you are looking at them. Maybe they are exempt or whatever, right? It's become a very high stress society. And yet a lot of people are just numbing it, by getting drunk or watching reality TV and you know, nothing wrong with those things at all, right? I'm all for people having fun, but you need to realize that having fun does not always mean de-stressing, right? These things that you're having fun doing could be distressing for your body. So
there's a lot of there's a lot of wisdom out of this session. That's amazing. So I love your core values, Janice. They're really awesome. And one of them that you mentioned is, you know, or a few of them is listen to your body, customize everything, set firm boundaries. Now, why do you live by them? And why are you so congruent with those values that we just mentioned?
So I think with a lot of these, it's developed over time because of my own experiences. And when I say that, it's not just about being from unhealthy to fit, whatever. It's realizing that in my early 20s, I had no idea what the hell I was doing. Right? I had no North Star. I was just plodding along to what society says I should. You know, the whole thing about, and nothing wrong with that at all, right? Having a corporate career, having a job, nothing wrong with those things. But I think I kind of stumbled into it without really thinking about, is that what I want? Now, similar to health, I find this very interesting to talk to people about, because you will ask people, why do you want to lose weight? And they say, well, because my clothes don't fit, or because so-and-so, you know, looks great and I want to look like that. And then you dig a little bit deeper, you will find that everyone's reason is a little bit different, right? For someone, it could be they are embarrassed because they take their kids to swimming class and they're the only dad who's too shy to take off the t-shirt because he's got a belly. It could be that shame, right? It could be something between, you know, long-time couples, like maybe they find each other less attractive for some reason. It could be all of those like very, very tiny reasons that are very personal to you, which is why I believe it's, you know, those three core values really kind of congregate into one thing, which is you need to find out what the hell you want, right? In life and health, whatever. And what I found is that, you know, I did go through different diets. I tried everything, right? Just to prove them wrong, kind of. And it really taught me that our bodies are very smart. So things like having a headache, people will just take a painkiller. But actually, why are you having a headache? Is it because you're dehydrated? Is it because you're stressed? Is it because your sinuses maybe are blocked? And therefore, the remedy is not always going to be just stop the pain. Pain is your body's message to you, right? That something's going on. And also, you know, people, I think, also take good feelings for granted. So what I mean by that is it's easy to focus on, okay, my body's feeling bad, therefore what I'm doing, instead of saying, oh, this made me feel good, let me do more of it. Right? I think it's again, two sides of the same coin, but people can't seem to try to replicate the good things, right? And with customizing, like I mentioned with like the clothing example, it just seems basic, right? That we all live different lives. And even identical twins with the same DNA sequencing develop differently, right? That's all I feel I need to say on that, like on why we need to customize everything. And lastly, in terms of setting firm boundaries, this is including with yourself. We actually break our own boundaries the easiest, right? Because we give excuses, we rationalize things. But actually, if you are able to keep boundaries, I just feel like if everybody can keep their boundaries and respect everyone else's boundaries, then we're all set. You know, no one's forcing anyone to do anything. We're all living how we want to live. So, yeah.
Awesome. Love it. So, you know, I ask this question to every guest that's on the show. What is your meaning of motivation without the hype, and how to use motivation for your personal success?
So, motivation without the hype to me means motivation that comes from the inside, right? Because especially with health, nutrition, all of these things, people are seeking so much external validation, you know. And I think if a little bit of that helps you, so I see people on various people's programs posting and tagging and saying like, oh, look, within a year I lost so much. Great, fantastic. But then people on the other end looking at it, stop using that as your target, because you probably didn't start out the same. You probably don't have the same goals. So you need to figure out, what does good look like, both visually as well as how do you want to feel when you're at your best health, right? Because health, we're different shapes and sizes, right? And I feel like we both feel good, but how we feel good could be different, right? You have a much more demanding routine at the moment with a new baby. So that's what it means to me. And in terms of how I use motivation, look, willpower, self-discipline, all of these things, limited resource. That's all I'm going to say. However, people think that I am crazy efficient. I'm a project manager, like program manager by trade in my corporate career. So maybe, yes, I have an advantage of being quite good at just organizing big picture and scheduling things. But ultimately, everyone is tired sometimes, right? Or sometimes you just feel a bit meh and you don't want to do anything, and that's okay, right? But this is when the motivation comes in, because I am the price, right? But I want to caveat that by saying, if you know what the price is and you still feel like, but today I really don't want to do anything, don't do anything. Let yourself, just release yourself from it. Right? Because maybe you give yourself a day to just stop. You come back 10 times better tomorrow.
Love it. Yeah. And there's so much truth around that, because you got to acknowledge those feelings, because if you don't, you'll burn out. And like you said, like willpower can only get you to a certain, threshold. But it's that desire that, why do you want to do it? And I think you tapped onto the emotional side, which is fantastic, because we need to tap into the desire rather than the willpower, because you can push as much, but you get burnt out and you kind of like go all haywire. And man, there's so much truth in that. So,
and just one last thing, I was just thinking, at the time of recording, we're having the Olympics at the moment, right? And you just look at all the sprinters, all the swimmers. The lactic acid must be insane. But in that final 5 meters, they will give it everything, right? They will do that head nod to just make sure they win. That is motivation. So, yeah, as you were saying that, I was just thinking, like, that is what motivation looks like, because they must be exhausted by then. Like, I would have just lost the will by then, I think. I'm not a runner. But people do things because they are motivated.
Yeah. Janice, thank you so much. You know what? You are truly gifted with metaphors, with so much creativity in your mind, and it just clicks. Like, you're able to extract information, but yet make it simple for people to understand. So you're really gifted in that. So thank you so much for sharing your gift to us, really. Guys, if you want to get in touch with Janice and what she does in her world, for more information, you can get in touch with her. Look at our show notes. It's all right there. So also, she does have an amazing podcast show called Neighborhood Nutritionist. You got to check that out. And please, I highly suggest and encourage you to, connect, subscribe, and put a follow and an awesome review at her podcast show. And by the way, she does have another one called Culturally Speaking. It's a fantastic podcast. Go check it out. I don't want to give any spoiler alerts at all, but you got to check it out and really do plug in. So all the provided notes are there, and I'm telling you, it's going to change your life forever. Now, if this episode has been very helpful and uplifting, we would love for you to write a review and to inspire more listeners to get plugged in. We will continue to provide high value content in each of every episode. Now, if you don't mind sharing this podcast on social media by inviting others, it would mean the world to me. Every time you tag me, we will get the opportunity to share those posts, and together, I said again, together, we can make a difference in the lives of others through inspirational episodes just like this. So there you have it. In closing, continue to unleash your greatness and tell yourself that I can, I will, and I must, and we'll see you on the next episode.